President, I would like to continue where I left last week and continue to discuss the issue of wartime internment. At the last statement, I said, although no United States-born citizens of Italian cultural heritage were detained, naturalized citizens of Italian cultural heritage were subjected to discriminatory policies. In fact, approximately 10,000 Americans of Italian cultural heritage were forcefully relocated from their home in California to places further inland. Many people lost their homes and their livelihoods. For example, some people were working as fishermen, and their boats were confiscated by authorities and could no longer go offshore and fish. Housing was another issue when people were forcefully relocated into new locations. For some, the relocation meant more than just leaving home or their work. It also meant that they were leaving their livelihood, which was built many, many years with blood, sweat, and tears. And for some, it was too hard to bear. Martini Tessa, Giuseppe Michelli, and Stefano Terranova, three Americans of Italian cultural heritage in their 50s and 60s, killed themselves. Meanwhile, Americans of Italian cultural heritage served in the American military. As many as 1.5 million Americans of Italian cultural heritage actually served in the U.S. Army, Navy, and Air Force during the war. It was about 10% of the overall U.S. military personnel at the time. Many people of Italian cultural heritage felt incensed that the United States government took no note of the fact that a large number of Italian aliens had one or more sons in the Army and Navy. Finally, President, on the 12th of October 1942, which was the Columbus Day in the United States, the Attorney General, Francis Biddle, proclaimed that beginning October 19, a week from today, that day, Italian aliens will no longer be classified as alien enemies. The internment of people of Italian cultural heritage, President, by the United States of America came after a long history of anti-Italianism, and people of Italian cultural heritage were subjected to menacing, widespread discrimination in the States at the time. The general sentiment among many Americans of Italian cultural heritage was, despite the restoration of certain rights and freedoms, the pain and memories of family disruption, job loss, internment remained with Italian American community for decades to come. As we can see, members, people of Italian cultural heritage suffered enormously, and the extraordinary injustice in the hands of executive governments. People who believe in social justice and human rights are rightly aggrieved by such measures during the world wars. And it is therefore some call after the war for redress and official recognition for such injustice. And perhaps if we could look at a situation in Australia. There have been some attempts to seek official recognition, and finally, the Australian Senate passed a motion on the 6th of December 1990, which reads that the Senate notes the grave injustices were done to many Australians of Italian descent who were interned during World War II, acknowledges that many of these people were falsely accused of being fascists when in fact they left Italy because of the intense dislike of that ideology and the way in which it was being enforced by the then Italian government, whilst recognizing internment policy in the circumstances of the national emergency in which it was implemented, nevertheless regrets the suffering caused to certain innocent Australians of Italian descent who were interned, recognizes that many of those who were interned were loyal Australians who wished to see democracy triumph over Nazism and fascism, and notes the desirability to investigate the possibility of having notations to the above effects appended to the internment records, which are now part of the public record. President, that motion was passed by the Australian Senate on that day. And there was a dinner hosted by the Western Australian government on the 8th of August 1991, where 67 internees and their partners attended, along with the Premier of Western Australia, the Honourable Dr. Carmen Lawrence. The dinner was intended to be a reconciliation event, and a letter from the Prime Minister, the Honourable Bob Hawke, was read out at the dinner. At this point, President, may I please just seek some guidance as to how much time I have, given the clock is not working?
You have 3 minutes remaining.
Thank you very much, President. I wish to quickly perhaps just read part of the letter from the Prime Minister into Hansard. The Prime Minister in his letter said, "I am pleased to greet the Italian internees of World War II present here tonight at the reconciliation dinner, a dinner which has been generously held under the auspices of the Western Australian government. I am proud to state that your mistaken internment in the 1940s was based on community attitudes of the time and would not occur in the multicultural Australia of 1991. It is the firm policy of my government to acknowledge and promote cultural diversity and to maintain harmony between all ethnic groups. Experiences such as yours as internees, strengthened by the goodwill which you have consistently shown to a nation which was at the time much less welcoming, have helped Australians develop a much more mature and sophisticated attitude to our multicultural society. The government is aware of the important contribution of our large and well-established Italian community to Australia's economic and cultural growth. As a nation, we are particularly conscious of how much we owe to the hard work and determination of Italian migrants and their children in such diverse areas as business, community service, language, education and sport, and energy, and the energy and enterprise of the Italian community has played a major part in shaping our unique multicultural society. The entrepreneurial skills and vigor of the Italian Australians have major importance to all of us. Your community has also been outstanding for its determination and self-reliance in building a new life in a new environment. This is a record of which you can be proud. Your strong combined will to survive and prosper has made it possible for so many of you to meet again. 50 years on, this is a magnificent achievement. I hope that you all have an enjoyable time at this reconciliation dinner, and I wish you and your descendants all the very best for the future. Australia is proud of you." Now, President, it was such a heartwarming gesture and message from the Prime Minister, and I think it is something worth to remind ourselves of the time of difficulties faced by Italian Australians, and also to celebrate the achievement. Now, South Australia also passed a similar motion some 2 decades later, and a very similar motion was passed by this Parliament in the Legislative Assembly.